first. We haven't got some outdated ideology. If it's right for the families, but also, you know, we're proudly nationalistic, we're proudly patriotic, and we're socially conservative. You know, we believe in a social, a social welfare net. There's no doubt about that. But we will help you, but you've got to help yourself. So if you're a patriot, if you love this country, if you love common sense politics, but you believe in a fair, strong dose of social responsibility, New Zealand First is your party.
Awesome. And what's your elevator pitch to the rest of Aotearoa, New Zealand?
Party vote, New Zealand First. If you want change, if you want a party that stands up for you, your family and your community, there is only one option. Party vote, New Zealand First, 2026.
Thank you very much. And that, of course, was the Honourable Stuart Nash. He's standing in the Napier seat down there in the Hawke's Bay. Man, he's going to actually have them running for the hills. Okay, we're going along here now, and we've got Harete Hipango Brownlee. Now, Harete, how have you actually found the conference, and what are you looking forward to this afternoon?
Kia ora, George, and kia ora everybody who's viewing in, streaming in. How have I found the conference? I've found that it's the right fit for me, and I would encourage every other New Zealander, those of you who are watching, to spread the good news and the good word. And I was just sharing with my colleague and friend Alfred Ngaro. We've both found our political home, and we were just talking about the fact that we've come here from another place and space politically, and we've been so welcomed and embraced. New Zealand First really is the party for all New Zealanders, core values of who we are as a society. And George, you and I both know you were part of that grouping Alfred was a part of as well. So you've come for what reasons are they?
Well, the same as yours, because we're part of the whānau, and so it's been really, really good. What stood out for you over the weekend?
Pardon?
What stood out for you over the weekend?
The people. The people in the kōrero, and it's that common connection of those values that binds us as that collective. Common unity. We talk about common sense, but it's about getting back to those core common values, which is the steadfast fabric of New Zealand, and it's about a New Zealand united. It's about the tradition of what shaped and framed our nationhood.
Now, you're standing down there in Whanganui. What are the challenges you're finding with your the electorate that you're standing in?
Well, I've only just recently been announced, George, so as I said yesterday, I was sharing a little bit of my story, and this is going to be my first rodeo with New Zealand First. So I'm saddling up, buckling in, and I'm really looking forward to the ride and the adventure. I've done it before. I've formerly served a two-term MP. This time it's going to be very different. I have the advantage, as do many others, of being known in the community that I come from. But what is going to resonate with the people is what connects us as New Zealanders together, and putting priority first and foremost, New Zealanders and New Zealand.
Well, what's your elevator pitch to the rest of New Zealand in terms of why they should be supporting New Zealand?
My elevated pitch is that New Zealand First is the party about nationalism. It's about social conservatism. It's the common sense approach, and it's about us being united in nationhood, stronger together than divided. I've never seen a nation as divided as what it's become in the last two terms with the political parties. So it's time for us all to put New Zealand first.
Thank you very much,
Kia ora,
of course.
George.
Harete Hipango Brownlee.
Out there, New Zealand First, go well.
Awesome, and of course Harete is going to be standing down there in Whanganui, and looking forward to actually seeing her on the campaign train. Come follow me, I'll have another guy that I want to talk with. Now, this guy here that I'm talking to is no stranger to the camera. In fact, Tane Randall, you're standing in Tukituki. Hey, look, how have you actually found the weekend?
Great weekend. Great people. First ever conference I've gone to, and just surprised by the calibre and also the energy. Fantastic.
Now, look, what sort of stood out for you with regards to the conference that we've just come out of?
The remit process, haven't done that before. That's a bit of an eye-opener. No, but I say really interesting, first time meeting all the candidates from throughout the country. And I think you look at other parties, but in terms of the people we've got, good real world experience and really interesting people to talk to, because they've done a lot over a number of different sectors.
Now, this is different to being the captain of the New Zealand All Blacks. What are you looking at taking into the 2026 campaign?
I think we've just got to get our message. You know, we've got a few challenges going on in our country. We've got to make some changes. and that's going to require some big, brave decisions from people who've got real experience, and that's us. We're the ones who can solve the issues that we've got.
Well, look, what's your elevator pitch to telling New Zealanders who are watching here today why they should actually vote for New Zealand First?
You want your power bill lower, you want your food costs lower, you want more autonomy, vote for New Zealand First.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to you on Tuki campaign trail. Thank you very much. Hey, come over here, guys. We're going to actually check out, of course, another person who is unfamiliar to the media, the Honourable, of course, Alfred Nuttall. Alfred, how have you found the campaign, the conference so far?
Well, I can tell you, I've been to 9 National Party conferences, and I can tell you this one here is outstanding. Why would I say that? First, transparency and accountability. When they gave the board report through the AGM, I've never had such a thorough, clear analysis about where the party is. And isn't it great to sort of hear that actually it's grassroots? No one gets paid, everyone's a volunteer, everyone contributes. And even for the fact is that we may be sort of fourth on the list in regards to the amount of money that we bring in, but every money counts, everything's accountable. But look at what we're doing in the polls. So encouraging. And the grassroots is reflected by the fact that, remits that will be able to, be put through the party. Members feel like they're heard, they're listened, and they're actually very much a part of this party.
Now, you, Harite, and obviously Stuart have come from other political parties. What would actually be the one or two things that you're going to be focusing on in this year's campaign?
Well, the first thing is about, getting out and meeting people. I mean, no one does public meetings like New Zealand First. I mean, our leader sort of epitomises that. He's out there, he's talking face to face with our people. In Polynesia and Māori, ka nohi te ka nohi, right? Face to face. That's what we do. So more of that. So far, I've had 40 public meetings I've had already since going around the south and up in the north. And I want to say this, that it's really important. There's a groundswell. You can have all the polls, but what we're seeing is that there's a groundswell of change. So for us, keep getting out there, keep putting our presence out there as well and engaging. And there's a younger audience that's starting to come in. I mean, my own kids came last night and they said, there's a different groove here. It's grassroots and they like it. And more importantly, it feels like family, it feels like home. I think that's what's engaging.
Now, one of the bigger sort of voting blocks, Alfred, is certainly the conservative Christian vote. What message would you actually have for them with regards to supporting New Zealand First? Well,
one of the things that Family First does with Bob McCroskey is they have value your vote. And it's really important. The good book says, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, your pen that ticks on the box come the 7th of November is really important. But when you do tick consciously. Be informed, know what those values are. And I can tell you now, and as a conservative Christian, that there's no other party that's currently in Parliament or in politics that represents those Christian conservative votes. I mean, what an amazing thing that at our conference we had the deputy leader say the karakia, say the prayer as well. Why? And then he talks about those. They've talked about these Judeo-Christian principles. What other party, what other leaders say that? There is none. It comes from Winston, it comes from Shane, it comes from other candidates. So they can have confidence. And the pursuit is not perfection, because if you've preached from Ecclesiastes many times, especially chapter 3, a time and a season for everything, the pursuit is not perfection, it's peace in your heart. Good enough for today to get us into tomorrow. No perfect party, no perfect politician, but there's enough goodness here and a set of values that we can say good enough for today to get us into tomorrow.
Awesome. Now, what's your elevator pitch to the rest of New Zealand to say why they should be supporting New Zealand First?
Well, first of all, here's my one point. Party vote New Zealand First. Why? It's the only party that represents the grassroots, the true blue people of this country, the values that have been tried and tested, that we were founded on, that we grew up on, right? And you can always trust that the New Zealand First is always delivered on its word as well. It means what it says what it means. So if you really want to see the shift and change in our politics in this country, for 60, 70 years, we've gone left, blue, dominating. How about you give New Zealand First a chance to finish the job? By your party vote to New Zealand First, what you're doing is you're putting more New Zealand First MPs in Parliament, more New Zealand First MPs into Cabinet, so that we can truly make a difference There's only one choice, party vote New Zealand first.
Awesome, thank you very much for that, Alfred, and good luck. You're standing out west, aren't you?
Yeah, Glendine.
Glendine, well there you go, the Honourable Alfred Ngaro. And look, I'm going to actually look for someone, here we go. I'll come and have a chat, of course, to our other MP, well Jenny, come and stand up here. I haven't actually interviewed you, we've been interviewing everyone else, but tell us what has been the highlight for you in terms of the weekend?
I think it's been the feeling of being part of a really big family has been wonderful. It's something that you don't expect in politics, but it is definitely New Zealand First is a family, and we have substantially grown. We've increased our family, so it's been wonderful. Have a chat to David too, because he's had a great convention.
Oh, very good. Well, look, one thing I'd like to actually ask before we go to David is, what is your 1 minute elevator pitch to say why New Zealanders should vote for New Zealand First?
Because our policies are all about common sense. It's about making sure ordinary, hard-working Kiwis get ahead in life, and we've got the policies to do just that.
So you're standing in Mahurangi, aren't you?
Yep, up in Mahurangi, Kaipariki Mahurangi, so it goes from one coast to the east coast to the west coast. It's quite a large electorate, a lot of rural area, small, kind of old-fashioned rural towns. I just love that part of the world. We've got the most amazing big blue backyard. It's a great place to holiday. It's a great place to grow a family. I just love being there. I've been up there for 2.5 decades. Actually, in fact, I go back to my great-great-grandparents who came out on a ship called the Matilda Wattenbach, pioneering back in the 1860s. 1863 they arrived in New Zealand and set up home on the shores of the Kaipara Harbour.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the time that you've actually had just broadcasting to the rest of New Zealand.
Oh, you too, George. You've done a fantastic job.
Awesome.
Have you done this before?
Oh, one or two times. Hey, look, one of the new kids on the block, he's no longer new now. It's been, what, how long has it actually been, David?
Just over a year, thanks, George.
Now, tell me what you've enjoyed about this weekend's conference.
It's bigger than any other conference I've been involved in, and I've been involved with New Zealand First for about 10 years. So this is fantastic. You can feel the momentum and you can feel the cohesion. We're here, we're going to rebuild a nation, we're going to rebuild the nation to bring prosperity, and we're all of one mind. People are repeating the same things each time. We need to rebuild this nation. It's been hollowed out and we're ready to do it.
So what things would you actually look at in terms of campaigning for from now until November 7?
For me, it's all about the economy, prosperity, so that we've got the money and the ability to do all the things we need in social development and health and housing and education. We need to bring back prosperity. We were once one of the richest nations in the world, and we can be again.
You've got a big job because you're here in Auckland, and what are the challenges that Aucklanders actually have with regards to issues, and also what things would New Zealand First be able to do for them?
The population of Auckland has grown 4 times in my lifetime, and I've never seen a period where we've been able to get ahead with our infrastructure. We're always getting things jammed up. Try driving at 3 o'clock, after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, anywhere in Auckland. So we've got to actually make sure that the immigration matches our ability to provide the infrastructure. Where I'm standing in Henderson is a prime example of that. Try driving down Lincoln Road at 4 o'clock. Good luck with that. That used to be, when I was young, that used to be wineries and orchards and all that sort of thing. Now it's just completely blocked out with development. We've got to actually catch up. We've got to take a bit of a breather and not have too much immigration. The immigration we need is right for us, not right for them.
Awesome. And what would you actually say to New Zealand and those that are watching online? What would you actually give them for voting for New Zealand First?
If you vote for New Zealand First, you're going to get a true centre-right party. We're really solid, and at bringing back those social conservative ideals, family, understanding, community. One of the principles we have is community and country. The connection between what the community wants and what the country is trying to achieve. And we can do that because we're a democratic party. We reach in, we go everywhere throughout the country, and we stand in front of you and we tell you our principles and we tell you what our policies are, and you get to talk to us. Name another party that does that. There aren't any.
Thank you very much, and we wish you well, David, in terms of your election for the next over 100 days.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay,
Looking
now I'm just going along the seats here, and I'll talk to Mark. Now, come and have a chat. Come and have a chat. We're going from Auckland to Wellington, and look, how have you? Oh, well, yeah, well, I waited up. Now, what have you actually found interesting over the weekend with regard to the conference?
I think it's the level of energy, the passion, and the way in which particularly some of the speakers have put those values that we've got around, patriotism, nationalism, that common sense. But also, I've found fascinating, particularly Michael's speech today, for example, the discussion around the way in which the National Party has lost the plot. It's, trying to be everything to everybody. We kind of know that, but how a lot of people now are moving towards New Zealand First are saying that it encapsulates the values that so many New Zealanders hold dear, and perhaps under the government of the left, the Labour government, weren't allowed to say so. But we're saying what they're thinking.
And what message would you actually give to the rest of New Zealand that are watching in terms of why they should be voting for New Zealand First?
I'd say come along and listen to what we've got to say. Question us. Think about what it is that's important to you. And look, for us, it is those values of nationalism, patriotism, common sense, traditional values, family values, but also who's going to make this economy actually move forward? Who's going to be brave enough to do that? Because I don't see that from our coalition partners, and I definitely don't see it from the parties to the left who would actually pull us backwards. And so that's what we want people to get engaged, because we could make this country the best country in the world again, best country economically, or it is a great country anyway, make it even better, and that's what we're about.
Thank you very much. Andy Foster, the candidate for an MP now, and candidate, of course, for Wairarapa. Thank you very much. Oh, Rimutaka. There you go. I knew it was actually that. Now, look, I'll talk to Jamie. Now, we're going from, of course, two cities to provincial and rural New Zealand. Kai Koda, of course, we've actually got Jamie. Jamie, look, how have you found the weekend?
It's just inspiring. It's incredible, the enthusiasm here. There's definitely a sense that New Zealand First needs bigger say in government, and I think we're going to definitely be getting it. And I'm just so proud of the party and what we've put on in the last 2 days here.
Now, you're the whip, and
Yes.
look, for those people that are watching that don't know what whips do, what do whips do?
The whip is a really important job, because our caucus meets every Tuesday when the House is sitting. The whip's job is basically relaying our decision making back to the other party whips, especially our government, the whips in government. But also the whip has to give out a bit of discipline from time to time. So if someone hasn't turned up to a certain meeting or hasn't been on time, you'll have to come and face the whip and explain the reason for that. But I can tell you now, our caucus is very disciplined. Our leader leads by example, and so being whip of the New Zealand First Party, it's a pleasure. And all I can say, the other parties, they're just not professional like New Zealand First is. So the whip's job, it's more enjoyment than anything, but it's also a sense of a place where people come to if they want to come and visit New Zealand First, have a meeting with our MPs, they come through my office.
Awesome. And finally, how would you actually sort of speak to the people of New Zealand around why they should be voting for New Zealand First?
You've got to be thinking of of New Zealand, and we simply put our policies for all New Zealanders, and that's why New Zealand First is going up in the polls. We're at grassroots level. It is about those issues around cost of living, around energy security, using our resources to make New Zealand a more prosperous place. And we are a party that delivers, and we totally understand too, we need to be creating jobs. And I go back to the Honourable Shane Jones, especially across the country, but even where I'm living in Marlborough, we're actually delivering projects on the ground that actually mean something. They're creating jobs and opportunities, and that's what New Zealanders want to see.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and good luck for your campaign for this year. Awesome. Hey, look, come over here. We'll talk to somebody else before. Oh, okay. Well, look, that's it from us. We're going to be heading back, of course, to the stage where the Right Honourable Winston Peters will be with us very soon. See you soon. Thank you, George.
New Zealand was once the greatest country on earth. We believe it can be again. A country that provides opportunity for you and your families. A country that gives hope for a better future. A country that ordinary hardworking Kiwis can be proud of. That's a mission worth fighting for. Times are tough. There is much uncertainty around the world and at home. But we are fighting for you, and we will never give up. We've already come some way on the road to recovery. But if you give us the tools, we will finish the job. Only together can we reach our potential as a country and as a nation. If we are united as one people. It won't be easy, but the things in life worth doing are never easy. We must never stop believing in ourselves. We must never stop believing in New Zealand. That is our vision and our mission. To protect and to save this great country. To put New Zealand and New Zealanders first.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the leader of New Zealand First, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here this afternoon. Mr. President, members of the New Zealand First Party Board, ministers and members of Parliament, delegates of New Zealand First nationwide, ladies and gentlemen, over the past 2 days we have held our 33rd annual convention, and it was this exact weekend It was this exact weekend in July 1993 when New Zealand First as a political party began. To all those members who began our political party 33 years ago, under a first-past-the-post electoral system, a genuine sentiment of gratitude to each and every one of you. Over the decades, your dedication has remained steadfast, and we have grown to become the most successful new political party in New Zealand's history. We salute you here today as the next generation, together with the former one, taking this party forward to new levels of success. Ladies and gentlemen, serious times require experience and prudent judgment. The world, as you know, is in a very troubled state, the worst that we can remember. And yet, having returned last week from Singapore and Japan, we are hopeful because our discussions were gripped by how our friends like us see chance amidst so much turmoil. We haven't needed lectures from others to act. No, we've been seizing chances to advance New Zealand's economic and social relationships with energy ever since this term began. Our 80-plus overseas trips have not been to collect passport stamps, but to enhance existing agreements or create new ones, whether in our region, the Pacific, or in Asia, South America, Europe, and the Nordics. In country after country, we have learned firsthand that they want to do more with New Zealand. They too see opportunity, and our job is to make the most of them. That said, don't underestimate just how disruptive the geostrategic environment is. It's hugely complex and challenging, and we are facing it all together. This places an enormous premium on experience, and through experience, good judgment,
that protect New Zealand's vital interests. We take the world as it is, not as some cloistered varsity lecturer or woke lefty wants it to be. The record shows that we have exercised sound judgment when it mattered most. With experience comes prudence, and with diplomacy comes opportunity. And that is why we are guardedly optimistic that New Zealand will emerge from the serious global disruptions in a strong position to exploit every opportunity that we create or that comes our way. Ladies and gentlemen, and that time is now. New Zealand First has been always the greatest challenge to blind ideology, to social elitism, and to the status quo. We, from the very beginning, have been for one country, one people, one law, one flag, regardless of gender, regardless of race, and regardless of religion. We have been for protecting our nation's sovereignty and national interest, protecting our unique role in the world, protecting our nation's pride in who we are, where we have come from, and our traditional Kiwi values. We fight for the hard-working, blue-collar Kiwi battler who just wants the chance to build a country that they can be proud of. And we have always been and always will be for a thing called plain common sense. "33 years ago, we created this party with a vision of hope and a heart to fight for the belief of every New Zealander for the chance for a better future for our children and grandchildren. Our country is not just a place. It is who we are as a people. That's what makes us unique. It's a set of values stitched together across time. It's never complete. It grows, and our job is to add to that growth. It grows into what we as New Zealanders together choose it to be. And the question is, what do we want our country to be going forward? We can no longer continue to accept the status quo, who represent the establishment, who want nothing more than to protect the power they think they have and maintain the separation of the ordinary Kiwi and the elite. In this election, we have a rare chance to change the shape of Parliament for the better, and in doing so, to reshape our country the way you want it. Look, you know, we can choose to continue down the path we have been for over 40 years, continuing to watch the swing of the pendulum where blue or red, just wait around long enough and then yell, "It's our turn now." Only then to change very little, apart from continuing to manage the decline. And you know we've been on a long pathway of decline. We can make a choice with our future generations in mind, take back control from the Wellington blue sky bubble, take back control from the way it's always been, take back control from those who choose to be CV politicians, where they are here today, one day, then run out of gas and are gone the next, taking with them a Rolodex of international job opportunities, speaking circuits or book tours, looking back over their shoulder at their country they've just left in decline. Ain't those the facts? New Zealand First, from its launch over 33 years ago, has been battling against the elitist status quo. No one can deny that. When others wouldn't raise a finger, we've raised the roof over and over again. And we're never going to give up the fight against the elitist status quo, and this election is where we can turn it on its head. In November, we have the real chance To show the power of MMP, we can move away from our system what it used to be, and make a real change to how our country is governed and who is representing you in government. What we ask you to do is to give us the tools so we can finish the job. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot fly a microlight to the moon. We can't get to the moon with a microlight. But if you give us an Artemis, we will reach the stars. We've got a real chance to change the path we are on in this country, to give hope a chance, and make New Zealand great again, like it once was when we were the #1 democracy in the world. And that time is now. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break the shackles of the status quo. New Zealand First has achieved a lot over the 4 governments that we have been a part of, punching well above our electoral weight. We're the party that raised the minimum wage for workers not once, not twice, but 3 times, in 2005, 2017, and again under this current government. We're the party that increased our frontline police numbers not once, not twice, but 3 times. In 2005 by 1,000, in 2017 by 1,800. And again in the government we will have shortly completed our coalition agreement to increase our frontline police numbers by the agreed 500. We are the party who demanded in our coalition agreement to introduce coward punch laws and tougher penalties for those who assault our first responders. We're the party who fought for the Super Gold Card for our seniors in 2005. Repealed the pernicious surtax. Remember that? When it was 92 cents in the dollar. Raised super to 66% of median wage, and now making the Super Gold Card a form of physical ID. And we're the party who brought in free health care for children under the age of 14. And you might not believe this, but we're the party that gave pay parity to primary school teachers. We're the party who has invested billions into our struggling regions with the Provincial Growth Fund in 2017 and again this term with the Regional Infrastructure Fund. We're the party that has rebuilt our regional rail network after 2017 when it was totally run down, and again this term with much needed investment into the once neglected system. We're the party that's increased funding to our great St. John's ambulance service. And we're the party that has a bill to let the local ratepayers decide about fluoride in their water. Instead of central government ramming it down your throats. We demanded a second COVID inquiry, but sadly other parties watered that purpose down. Why? Because they were all totally implicated. And make no bones about this, we're the only party that's called for a new Select Committee inquiry into those who were injured by the vaccine and being compensated. For those who are injured by the vaccine and being compensated for it, we are not going to let this matter be swept under the carpet by incompetent ministers and incompetent politicians. We are the only party that has called for a new Select Committee inquiry, as I said, because justice cannot be delayed any longer. We're the party that stopped all work on He Puapua. We stopped the WHO imposing international health regulations without New Zealanders' first consent. We repealed the natural health products legislation. And heavens above, we have taken men out of women's sport. And we stopped the use of puberty blockers in children. When they're adults, they can decide, but not before. And we're making English an official language that will stop the nonsense. That'll stop the nonsense that led to the CRL renaming the Britomart station Waitemata. Every Maori knows it's not Waitemata, right? And the Mount Eden station Mangafo, without ever seeking a mandate. And we're fighting against that woke ideology that has pervaded our country over the past 10 years. The list goes on and on. The width and breadth of our accomplishments is vast and has influenced and positively affected every sector, every region, and every part of New Zealanders' lives. But it's not just the policies that our party has accomplished, it's about the common sense, experience, and the values that we bring to government. Currently, we're fighting against the Gene Tech Bill. We're fighting against the use of digital ID. And the ban on social media for under 16-year-olds. When are we going to take heed of what the parents have got to say? But if we are a country who want to achieve more, to see more of those great policies, to see those values and principles of nationalism, patriotism and conservatism in the true leadership of our great country, then New Zealand First needs you to give us the tools that we need to get the job done. As we said, we need to break the shackles of the status quo. We need to stop accepting the swing of the managed decline. Pepsi or Coke, pendulum swing. We need to take this unique chance in November to stop the monotonous Pepsi or Coke pendulum swing and give our country the chance to be truly great again. We are asking you to party vote New Zealand first. There are countless examples, but here's just one. It's a local one. Labor made all the promises to build the Mill Road 4-lane corridor out here, going south to Drury, and then did what about it? Zero. They did nothing about it. So much so that a National Party local MP said this: "We have a city the size of Napier being built at Drury, and still this Labor government thinks a cycleway will be sufficient," end of quotes. So what did National do about it? I can't hear you. Exactly. National continued to delay this project once again. Pepsi and Coke have promised and done nothing. New Zealand First, the party of the Provincial Growth Fund and Regional Infrastructure Fund, the rebuilder of the rail network across the country, is committing as an election promise to get the Mill Road corridor built as a priority. You'll have seen in recent months that New Zealand First is against the Indian Free Trade Agreement, and for good reason. It's not the great deal that's been portrayed by other political parties. We aren't against free trade agreements. Look, it's written into the New Zealand First coalition with National to specifically prioritise an FTA with India. It's in our agreement. But we are against bad free trade agreements that are not in New Zealand's best interests. If you talk about the good parts of the Indian FTA, you have to talk about the bad parts, which other political parties are conveniently ignoring, brushing off, or passing the buck. Now, New Zealand First has highlighted from day one the reasons this deal is bad. We stated from day one that this deal had unprecedented immigration settings, including uncapped student numbers, with working rights and 5,000 visa holders entering New Zealand able to bring in families with them. That's in the agreement. That is in addition to other uncapped immigration work visa pathways within the agreement. Did I say that? No, the Prime Minister of India said that. The Trade Ministry of India said that. The Communications Ministry of India says that. The ultimate question and problem we have is, why has immigration been made one of the centerpieces of what is meant to be a free trade deal? Why has this become a free migration deal? There are also two clauses which are included in the FTA that no one can give an explanation as to why. The UN Governance Framework, UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, is in the agreement. This is the provision that created Hey Purpur. The Paris Agreement also, that's in the FTA. The agreement that will see us send up to $22 billion overseas in a pointless and futile attempt to reduce our 0.17% CO2 emissions in the face of just 4 countries, China, US, Russia and India, producing 60% of the world's emissions, and who produce more CO2 in one day than we do in a year. If it's in the coalition agreement that UNDRIP is not recognised, and the ACT Party is supposedly against UNDRIP and the Paris Accord, why are these clauses in the FTA that both National and ACT have supported? Please tell me the answer to that. What is more, New Zealand must promote $33 billion of investment into India over just the next 15 years. Otherwise, India can claw back the agreement. The provisions are in there for the clawback to happen. Billions of our dollars into a foreign country when we are desperate for investment back here in New Zealand, hadn't they noticed? It was just last weekend when Prime Minister Modi himself said, not just once but twice, that this was a, his words, quotes, commitment to invest, end of quotes. He had months and months to get ready with all the controversy in New Zealand, and yet he came in and said that. Yet we were told by National that it's just, quotes, an aspiration. You heard that before? Well, I can. That's what John Key said UNDRIP was, before it started becoming part of our law. Luxon said Modi was wrong, and Hipkins washed his hands of all responsibility for this mess of different interpretations after eating a sausage roll. Surely you, the people of New Zealand, the masters of politicians, deserve an explanation. If since 2012, New Zealand has only invested $4.2 billion into China through that FTA, that's 15 years, then how are we going to find $33 billion over the next 15 years for India? Riddle me that. You journalists and commentators and all you business experts, riddle us that. To get to this point where there's such a difference in interpretation after this deal has been signed is a real worry. What is worse is when Hipkins clearly understood that there was very serious potential for different interpretations of the deals to badly affect New Zealand businesses, he warned those businesses that there are risks with what was in the FTA, and then he supported it. You like that? He warned of this serious risks for businessmen, but I'm the politician signing it, but you look after it if it goes wrong. How do you like that for irresponsibility? That ain't leadership. That's servitude. Hipkins is now putting all that responsibility and risk that he has allowed to occur by supporting the FTA onto New Zealand businesses. And why wasn't the interpretation clear before the FTA was signed by National and before ACT and Labor supported it? National brushes it off by saying India is wrong, and Labor is washing their hands of all the risks that they've both created. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a recipe for disaster going forward. And astonishing as it may seem, but Prime Minister Luxon told media that the good news is he spoke to New Zealand manufacturing businesses who told him that they are already planning to put manufacturing facilities into India. Hear that? They're already putting New Zealand manufacturing businesses into India. So, ladies and gentlemen, since when was it a good thing that New Zealand companies are now moving employment and production overseas? Can you see how backward this has become? Are you seeing now why New Zealand First has opposed the FTA from the time we saw the real detail? Ladies and gentlemen, we must not forget what we inherited just 3 short years ago from an economically destructive and morally bereft Labour government that left the country in a precarious and impossible position. We inherited a broken economy, a fractured society, and a country on a road to social disaster. That road was paved with the unbelievable incompetence from the last Labour government. So bad that a former Prime Minister just quit one day because she said there's nothing left in the tank. 2, run out of energy, run out of enterprise, so I'm gone. New Zealand's debt had skyrocketed. There were multiple fiscal policies with no allocated funding. Racist co-governance and woke ideology had spread into legislation and throughout the public sector, universities, government departments and schools. The left had simply run roughshod over our country. Labour left us a crumbling, underfunded, overwhelmed health system, an education system that has seen a record number of children failing basic standards and massive truancy, when since 1877 it's been compulsory to go to school, yet almost half were not. Breathtaking. An unimaginable number of schools where adequate classrooms were not present, and many in the teaching force under enormous strain. A defence force that had lost more than 1/3 of its personnel over the 3 preceding years. Just like that. An undermanned police force, hemorrhaging officers to Australia, massive shortages in recruitment, massive increases in crime, and youth ram raids night after night, day after day, and violence that was simply out of control. Gang numbers that ballooned over the 3 years. A cost of living crisis. A housing crisis with skyrocketing prices and unprecedented numbers living in emergency hotels. Remember the Labour Party promise of 100,000 new homes? Remember Twyford? 100,000 new homes he promised over 10 years. After 6 years, how many had they built? You don't know, do you? Not many. They left us a rate of child poverty even higher than when in 2021 Jacinda Ardern made herself the Minister of Child Poverty. It's not kind, no, you're right. But the truth never is. A mental health system that has seen more and more young people suffering with no help. Crumbling infrastructure around the country with no plan, no funding and no idea. An unprecedented, uncontrolled level of immigration. In 2023, they brought in 133,000 immigrants. Never asked you, didn't tell you where they're going to be housed, where they're going to be schooled, whether there's hospitals available. They just brought them in without even any notice at all. And during COVID, left large numbers of people ostracised, demonised, shut down and shut out, ignored and cancelled, all because those people fought for their right to say, no, we disagree. That's all they were saying. There they were, all these New Zealanders outside of Parliament, described by somebody trying to get back into Parliament now, a former Labour minister, as a river of filth. How disgusting that that person can even be on the pathway to come back to Parliament. He describes his fellow New Zealanders with their own rights to protest if they feel like it as a river of filth. They're all hoping that you've forgotten about all that. They are now actively banking on working with the wacky Greens and the racist mess of the Maori Party. Labour care more about the seats that will give them a road to power than the danger of those who will be in those seats. The Labour Party of just 20 years ago would have never entertained working with the likes of those in the current Greens or Maori Party. Ladies and gentlemen, Those two parties now have self-confessed Marxists and separatists who have unworkable, dangerous policies and care more about the globalist woke agenda and ideology and geopolitical wars happening tens of thousands of miles away than the real understanding of the real world back home in New Zealand. The Labour, Greens and Maori Party would be an unmitigated disaster for your country. The reality is Labour long ago deserted the traditional blue-collar workers of New Zealand. The movement of the party to the left has caused long-time Labour voters to feel abandoned by a party that once stood for the ordinary, hard-working Kiwi. Instead, Labour now cares more about social justice issues as they interpret them, socialist economics as they define them, and cultural separatism. That is why we ruled out working with Labour before the last election, and we're doing so again in 2026. New Zealand First has already announced a number of election policies that we believe are needed to effect real change in the direction of the country, drive down the cost of living, and secure a future for Kiwis. We have announced policies to break up the power companies, split the supermarket duopoly, re-establish a competitive state-owned bank, return mining royalties created in the regions back to the regions, and we announced our KiwiSaver policy of making it compulsory with automatic sign-up at birth of a $1,000 kickstart. Or, by the way, we announced it, and a month later the National Party announced the same policy. Not so much to buy your leave, having cancelled it. We announced a policy to establish a $100 billion future fund that will invest in 30-year infrastructure for our country, a fund that is separate from the influence of politicians and runs similar to the highly successful Temasek model in Singapore. We announced a future fund of $100 billion. Labour, as I said the other day, announced a future policy of $200 million. Us $100 billion, there's $200 million rather, and they get away with it, which alarms you when you think we should have a responsible media. They should have been torn apart on that one promise alone. So that's what we're doing. We have also announced that we will pull out of the Paris Agreement that is senselessly hamstringing our country. Quite amazing for the left, you know, because we made that comment a number of years ago, and just recently, Tony Blair, the former longest-serving Prime Minister, Labour Prime Minister of the Labour Party in England, said the same thing. Tony Blair came out and said, "What a shock." I beg your pardon back there? Someone got a problem with that? Ladies and gentlemen, can I just say that we're going to ensure in 12 months that this country will have a changed voting system. By that I mean, at the moment you can be in this country for 12 months alone, and you can vote in the national elections, the local elections, you can vote in the referendum, you can change the whole social fabric of our country. Our voting rules are the most lax in the world. We're going to change all that, we're going to fix that. You're going to have to be a citizen to vote in this country. Our policies will change the status quo, reform our country and put New Zealand back on a pathway of prosperity. These are bold policies, but bold policies are needed to create a fair playing field in the power, the food and the banking system so we can make real change to Kiwis' lives, drive down the cost of living, give Kiwis a fair go, and take back control of our country. And we're announcing another bold policy announcement we're making today. One of the most concerning issues we are currently facing as a nation is the existential threat to fuel security and fuel supply. We're all watching offshore, watching news every day to see what's happening coming out of the Straits of Hormuz and with Iran. We've seen the immediate effects of being isolated and totally dependent on international supply lines of oil and gas, and the dramatic and costly effects it has on New Zealand's sustainability, planning and future certainty. We are totally susceptible to the geopolitical choices made by other nations in the cost, supply and certainty we need as a country to survive today and into the future. We used to be one of the most energy efficient countries in the world, where we had marvellous advantages for businesses and homes in cheap energy, and all that has changed. We've got to take control back again. All these other parties, they'll wring their hands and got eyes going backwards and forwards with Val sandwiches on TV. They want to tinker around the edges with solar panel plans, which does next to nothing to address fuel and gas insecurity. We say New Zealand was one of the great potentials in the world to have ownership of our supply of oil and natural gas. We've got that potential. New Zealand potentially holds Norway-scale energy prospects in our offshore basins, and that potential has never been accurately surveyed or characterised with modern tools. If we identify those reserves in our basins, we'll have the ability to utilise the natural resources we have to make our country secure, prosperous, and to build real resilience. You know, it's amazing, but analysis shows that the odds of New Zealand having a major commercial discovery in our basins is well over 90%. And most likely we hold something that would be transformational for our country and potentially the equivalent of Norway in scale. We can no longer ignore this potential in our deep sea basins. This is about future-proofing New Zealand in a world of uncertainty. This is about making the investment now to build fuel security and fuel resilience for New Zealand's future. We can't afford to wait any longer. New Zealand First will be campaigning on an initial investment of $1 billion over the term of the next government into a national subsurface development survey. We're going to find out what we own and have got. To identify and create one national database, data set across energy, geothermal and COs, storage sites, and create the framework for New Zealand to develop those sites, extract those resources, and build our country's resilience and prosperous economic future. Your country, New Zealand, has 10 prospective basins with world-class potential. 10 prospective basins with world-class potential. The Great South Basin has had only 8 wells drilled in its entire history, and the deeper horizons are untested. The existing seismic data is 2 technology generations old. It's way gone since the time we should have done something about this, covering only a fraction of our subsurface inheritance. Namibia has made the discoveries that can now transform its country, and the economy has a focused data acquisition campaign which began in just 2022, 4 years ago. In under a decade, Guyana went from first discovery to South America's 3rd largest producer. We have that potential here in New Zealand. Since the conflict in the Straits of Hormuz, capital is now moving into politically stable basins elsewhere in the world. And for it to move, it needs more data. The reality is survey costs right now sit at structural lows. It's an ill wind that doesn't blow somebody some good. This disaster in the Hormuz Straits is going to help us get our thinking right in New Zealand. The policy is a game changer. Under this plan, we'd expect to see first results within 12 months and convert that potential to knowledge that global capital can bid against here. This is at a time when at the midst of the largest basin capital movement in a generation. Within the first 24 months, the highest ranked basins will have surveys completed, with wells identified, and the first physical proof that reserves exist. They'll know we're going to be wealthy again. But for heaven's sake, don't let politicians determine what we do with it. That's why we're going to have a separate model like Temasek, Singapore. Expert men and women doing the job, not temporarily empowered politicians. Potentially within 6 years, we have a pathway forward for our country to own and control our own supply of energy that we can use domestically and export around the world. New Zealand First would utilise these resources to transform our economy, our future and our resilience. We'll have the money for all the talk. We would set fair terms while explorers carry the risk of proving the fields, and every time and over time pay a royalty well over 50% on all extractions as production matures. We'd use these funds to find and end the gas shortfalls that we have sent power prices through the roof, and to drive fuel costs down locally, export oil and gas, and establish a Norwegian model sovereign fund. We're not going to spend it. We're not going to spend it. We're not going to spend it on tax cuts. No, we'll get there the other way. We're going to spend it on building a huge sovereign fund for our future, for our grandchildren. We'll transform any discovery into permanent national wealth and invest in regional industry. New Zealand has natural resources that are there ready to be utilised to transform our country. This is about New Zealand's economic sovereignty and security. We can't wait and continue to be beholden to international interests and decision-making. We will find those energy reserves, we will extract them, and what we find, we'll use to make our country prosperous again. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all here because we love our country and we are proud of it. True democracy, you know, is a very rare flower in the history of humanity. Go down the thousands of years. True democracy and freedom in the way that we've enjoyed is a very rare thing. And we've inherited a free country that our forebears fought for and died for, and it's our job to preserve it. But we can only be proud of what we have inherited if we come together and move forward to shape the vision of our country's future. We live in a country that, at its core, traditional values once saw us as New Zealanders amongst the world's leaders. Hard work, fair pay, valuing our citizenship, building a sense of community and knowing who we are as Kiwis, affordable home, access to health care if we needed it, escalator being open to everybody to get on if they wanted an education to go as far as they could possibly go, and first world wages. Those four things is what this party has always stood for and will again. And we must remember New Zealand is the beneficiary of Western values, democracy and the rule of law. Never be ashamed of that. And the advancement and enhancement of those principles have only occurred in those societies that have united together as one people, who celebrate their nationhood instead of perpetuating division. We must take hold of new opportunities and embrace hope for a new direction. We must embrace hope for a new direction, because the past is now over, the future is coming, and New Zealand needs to be ready. There's a lot of uncertainty around the world and at home, but we must keep hope alive that with hard work and perseverance, tomorrow is going to be better. We make no bones about it, New Zealand First is nationalistic. We're patriotic and we're socially conservative. We are proud of not only standing for those values, but we're proud to fight for them. Times are tough, but we are fighting for you. And we'll never give up. We must not lose sight of how far we've come on this long road to recovery. But if you give us the tools, we will finish the job. You all know, that it hasn't been easy. But things in life worth doing are never easy. We've been in more fights, more battles, in more court cases for the right purpose that has sold us and saved this country billions and billions of dollars. That's what we've done. We've never been CV politicians. We've gone to the wire. We've resigned from Parliament to fight a by-election to get the right mandate. Done all those things when others would never do the same. And still they criticise us. It's what we're doing, and that'll build character for our country. We must never forget that challenge. We must never stop believing in New Zealand. That's our vision, and that is our mission, to protect, to save, and to restore New Zealand's place at the very top of the world. And in a phrase, how are we going to do that? By putting New Zealand and New Zealanders first. We're asking you to join us and party vote New Zealand first. Thank you much. Thank you very much. Safe journey home, safe travel.